Welcome to a new deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're cutting through the noise of financial reports, specifically Visa's fiscal third quarter 2025 results. We've got the official earnings call transcript, their financial highlights, fantastic sources you shared.
Yep, plenty to work with.
And our mission really is to unpack the power of their global network, their innovation in payments, and, well, how they're thinking about the future of money itself. Get ready for a shortcut to being well-informed.
That's right. And what's really fascinating, I think, is how these numbers, these initiatives, they sort of paint this picture of resilience and, forward thinking, even with all the uncertainty in the global economy right now.
Definitely.
So we'll look at not just what the results are, but why they matter for payments generally and what it means for, how you and I pay for things every day.
Excellent. Let's unpack that right away then. Looking at Visa's Q3 2025, what immediately jumps out from those highlights, from the CEO's comments?
The core message is just strong performance. It really is. They delivered net revenue of $10.2 billion. That's up 14% year over year.
14%.
Yeah.
Both nominal and constant dollars.
Both nominal and
Okay.
constant, yeah. And their non-GAAP EPS, that also saw a big jump, 23% year over year,
23%. Wow.
reaching $2.98 per share.
Hmm.
Just shows the power of their diverse business model.
Okay, so those are impressive top-line numbers. What does that actually tell us about the underlying activity, the core business?
Well, the key drivers were really robust. Global payments volume grew 8% year over year in constant dollars. Cross-border volume, and this is excluding intra-Europe, that rose 11%.
Still double digits there.
Exactly. And total processed transactions, up 10% to get this, 65.4 billion.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B. So these figures, they just highlight a really healthy, growing core business.
Makes sense. And beyond just the revenue and volume, they mentioned capital allocation too, right?
Yeah.
Returning cash to shareholders.
Indeed, yeah. They returned $6 billion to shareholders. That breaks down into $4.8 billion in stock buybacks and $1.2 billion in dividends. Shows real confidence, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
And it's worth noting, while overall operating expenses did increase, partly because of a litigation provision and personnel costs, the non-GAAP operating expenses, which maybe give a clearer picture of operations, they increased by 13% over last year. So still investing, but managing costs too.
Okay, that strong foundation really sets the stage. Now, this is where I think it gets really interesting. How Visa is evolving how we pay, the consumer side. What were the standout innovations there this quarter?
Yeah, they're definitely pushing hard into, a more digital future, it's clear. Total credentials, like cards and digital equivalents, up 7% year over year. That's the 9th quarter in a row of at least 7% growth.
Consistency.
Right. And a key focus is tokenization, replacing card numbers with secure tokens.
For secure.
Exactly. They're nearing 15 billion tokens issued now, and over 50% of their global e-commerce transactions are tokenized. They're pushing towards 100% penetration there.
I also saw something about a flex credential. What's that all about? Sounds flexible.
It is. The Flex credential is, it's a versatile solution. It's gaining traction for things like buy now, pay later, small business use, multi-currency. A big example was Klarna launching a Klarna card using Flex in the US and Europe.
Okay, so enabling those newer payment models.
Precisely. And they've expanded it geographically, too. Vietnam, Philippines, Bangladesh. They mentioned a pipeline of over 200 client opportunities for Flex.
Wow. And then AI agents for shopping. That sounds straight out of science fiction.
It does a bit, doesn't it? That's Visa Intelligent Commerce. Basically, it combines APIs, including AI-ready cards that use tokenization and authentication to let consumers shop and buy using AI agents, securely and at scale.
So my AI assistant could actually buy things for me using Visa's tech.
That's the idea. They have over 30 partners testing it in a sandbox right now, and a live pilot is coming soon. Which, it really makes you wonder, how will these AI agents fundamentally change how we shop?
A big question, definitely. They also talked about increasing cash digitization, but in face-to-face settings. How?
Right, through tap to everything. Tap to pay is just everywhere now. Penetration is at 78% of face-to-face transactions globally.
Almost 80%.
Yeah. They've really pushed issuance and acceptance, especially in things like public transit.
Yeah.
That builds the habit,
For me,
right?
transit is key for that.
Totally. And they said 75 U.S. cities are now at 60% tap-to-pay penetration or higher. That's up from just 30 cities last year.
Huge jump.
And places like New York City are over 85%, San Francisco over 80%. It shows how those small, everyday taps really add up.
What about their premium offerings, the higher end?
Still a focus. For affluent consumers, they launched Visa Infinite Privilege down in Brazil, partnering with big names like Itaú, Unicred, XP International, lots of personalized experiences. And up in Canada, their Visa Infinite card for Wealthsimple, the fintech, apparently their most requested product, issued tens of thousands of cards in just 2 months, hundreds of thousands on the wait list. So premium is definitely still a growth driver.
And it's not just about cards anymore, is it? What about non-carded solutions?
Absolutely, not just cards. They're developing things like Visa A2A, that's account-to-account payments in the UK. They're leveraging their brand trust, consumer protection, tech, risk management for that.
So direct bank transfers, but with Visa's layer?
Kinda, yeah. And they're focusing deliberately on open banking, especially in Europe and Latin America. They mentioned Visa Connect in Brazil. It uses Tink technology. Remember, they acquired Tink?
Right, the open banking platform.
Exactly. So Visa Connect facilitates open banking payments, particularly helpful for e-commerce, where checkout conversion can sometimes be tricky. It shows they want to be the rails for all kinds of digital money movement.
Okay, let's shift gears from consumers to businesses. Visa is also huge in how companies move money. What did we learn about their commercial and money movement solutions, CMS?
Yeah, CMS is seeing really strong growth too. Commercial payments volume was up 7% in constant dollars, and the CMS revenue rose 13% year over year, again in constant dollars.
13% growth there.
And at the heart of that is Visa Direct, their real-time push payments platform. Transactions on Visa Direct grew 25% year over year. That's 3.3 billion transactions.
Quarter of a growth, wow. 3.3 billion. They called it the largest money movement platform, didn't they?
They did. Largest both transactions, volume, endpoints. They're really investing to sell it into new use cases. And a key strategy is tackling specific business challenges, like vertical by vertical.
Can you give an example?
Sure. In healthcare, they're providing solutions for employee benefits, working with over half the top HSA providers in the U.S. Sunny FinTech is issuing Visa prepaid cards for disbursements there. In travel, Checkout.com is using Visa virtual cards for online travel agencies. And in fleet and fuel, Octopus Energy over in Europe picked Visa for a single payment solution for fleet managers dealing with mobility expenses. It really shows how they're embedding themselves into different business workflows, solving specific payment problems.
Makes sense. And what about cross-border flows? That's always complex for businesses.
They're making good progress there. ADIB, a big bank in the UAE, is going to use Visa Direct for their new remittance program that gives access across cards, accounts, wallets, all corridors.
Streamlining remittances.
Exactly. And in Bangladesh, they signed 4 partners for outbound cross-border payments. Plus, Paysend in the U.S. and Canada is expanding how they use Visa Direct now for gig worker payouts, payroll, accounts payable. It really connects back to that ecosystems.
Okay, now for a topic that gets a lot of buzz, stablecoins. What's Visa's position and how are they actually using them?
Right. So Visa's been active here for, well, almost a decade, surprisingly. They mentioned supporting the Genius Act in the U.S., the regulatory bill. Yeah, they see that as a key step for clarity. Their basic belief is stablecoins can solve real payment problems. And Visa's role to bring trust, standards, connectivity, their billions of endpoints, scale, interoperability to that ecosystem.
So bridging the gap between stablecoins and the traditional system.
That's the idea. They see practical applications, product market fit, in 2 main areas right now. First, emerging markets where local fiat might be volatile or where it's hard for people to access U.S. dollars.
Okay. And the second?
Second is cross-border money movement, both B2B payments and consumer remittances, places where traditional methods can be slow or expensive.
So how are they actually making this happen? What are the concrete steps?
Well, they've already deployed stablecoin-linked cards in many markets globally. They mentioned partners like Bridge, Rain, various banks, and since 2020, they've enabled users to spend over $25 billion in various cryptos, including stablecoins now, often in those cash-heavy emerging markets.
25 billion in spend enabled.
Yeah. And they're enabling cross-border movement too, P2P and B2B in some emerging markets. They're even piloting with stablecoin companies like Yellowcard in sub-Saharan Africa to streamline treasury operations for businesses, make cross-border transactions cheaper using stablecoins.
Interesting. Are they helping traditional banks get involved too?
Yes, definitely. They're helping banks issue their own stablecoins using Visa's tokenized asset platform, helping them understand programmable money. And, importantly, they offer multi-chain, multi-coin stablecoin settlement on their network.
I mean, what does that mean exactly?
It means they can handle settlement for different stablecoins running on different blockchains. They just added a Euro-backed stablecoin, EURC, and through a partnership with Paxos, two more regulated stablecoins, USDG and PYUSD.
So more options.
More options, more flexibility. They're also adding support for two more blockchains, Stellar and Avalanche, so that brings them to supporting 4 stablecoins on 4 different blockchains, representing 2 currencies, euro and dollar, which can then be converted into over 25 traditional fiat currencies within their settlement system.
That's quite comprehensive.
It is, and it really makes you ask, okay, how quickly will stablecoins actually integrate into the mainstream beyond these specific use cases? That's the big question,
It
right?
really is. Okay, moving on. Visa's value-added services, or VAS, they had a massive growth quarter, didn't they?
One of their strongest ever, yeah. 26% year-over-year growth in constant dollars.
26%. So what exactly falls under VAS, and what's driving that growth?
It's basically 4 portfolios, and all were contributing strongly. First, issuing solutions. Pismo, the cloud processing platform they acquired, is expanding globally. Visa's client relationships are really helping there.
Leveraging that acquisition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've entered Europe with ABN AMRO's neobank Boot, Lunar in Scandinavia. EML Payments in Australia is using Pismo for global issuance.
Okay, that's the issuing side. What about merchants and acquirers, acceptance solutions?
Also growing well through direct merchant relationships and via acquirers. On the merchant side, they renewed and expanded with Shopee Pay across several Asian countries, adding tokenization, which is key.
Shopee Pay is huge in that region.
Massive. And Kareem Pay, the super app in the Middle East and North Africa, they're using CyberSource, Visa's risk platform, and account verification. Shows how VAS enables these new app-based ecosystems. Then on the acquiring side, banks like Arab National Bank in Saudi Arabia and BAC in Central America partnered with Visa for CyberSource and risk tools for their merchant clients.
So providing tools for the whole ecosystem.
Precisely.
And then there's risk and security, always critical.
Absolutely. And their capabilities there, especially using AI, are clearly resonating. TSYS, a huge processor, already a partner, they're moving billions of transactions onto Visa's next-gen SaaS platform to benefit from more advanced AI scoring models for fraud detection. Better accuracy, fewer false declines. It just highlights that constant need for top-notch security.
Makes total sense. And the last piece of VAS, advisory and other services.
Right. This uses their consulting arm, marketing skills, data, analytics, really to deepen client relationships beyond just processing payments. For example, Aeon Financial Service in Japan renewed their credit deal, but also added consulting, managed services, and marketing from Visa.
So a broader partnership.
Exactly. In Brazil, Visa's teams are helping Caixa develop a super app for its 40 million customers, enhancing digital engagement. And in the U.S., the fintech Chime used Visa's marketing services for their NBA playoffs campaign.
Interesting. So it's not just about Visa transactions anymore.
Not at all. It's about enabling all types of payments and even go beyond payments to help clients with marketing, strategy, analytics, a whole range of business needs.
It paints a picture of incredible resilience, as you said. But looking at the macro environment, what are they actually seeing in consumer spending, especially looking towards Q4?
Well, despite all the uncertainty out there, consumer spending has remained surprisingly resilient right through Q3 and into late July when they reported. In the U.S., spending growth stayed strong across all income levels, all categories. No real impact seen from tariffs yet.
That's quite something.
It is. And cross-border volume, excluding intra-Europe, also stayed strong, above pre-COVID levels, even with headwinds like, currency weakness affecting some travel trends.
You mentioned currency. Did they talk about monthly trends? Any variability there?
Yeah, they gave some detail. June was apparently a bit softer, partly due to the mix of days in the month and timing of bill payments. Nothing structural. But then July showed acceleration again. And for cross-border, April got a boost from Easter and Ramadan timing. June saw a bit of a step down, partly because the U.S. dollar weakened further then. But July accelerated again, with improvements in both e-commerce and travel. They related that partly to the dollar strengthening a bit again and just strong online retail spending. It's fascinating, really, how directly those global currency movements impact their volumes and revenue.
Shows how connected they are globally. So given all that resilience, but also the variability, what's their outlook for Q4 and the full year? Did they change guidance?
For Q4, their adjusted net revenue outlook is actually unchanged, still expecting high single digits to low double digits growth, which puts nominal net revenue growth generally in line with the first half of the year, around that 10% mark.
Okay, consistent.
Pretty consistent, yeah. They expect adjusted operating expenses to grow in the high single digits to low double digits, too,
Hmm.
and adjusted Q4 EPS growth also in the high single digits.
Oh.
But here's the key thing. Overall, for the full fiscal year, even with everything going on, they now expect to deliver stronger net revenue and EPS growth than they previously thought.
So they're actually raising the bar slightly for the full year.
Effectively, yes. It suggests they're navigating this environment really well.
That's a strong signal. So if we bring this all together, this performance, this constant innovation, what does it say about Visa's long-term vision? How do they see themselves?
No, their strategy, the diversity and resilience of the business model, plus that resilient consumer spending, it all gives them, they say, confidence. Confidence to keep making those big investments to build the future of payments, drive long-term growth. They really position themselves now as a hyperscaler.
A hyperscaler, like the big cloud companies.
Kind of, yeah. The idea is they're this foundational platform anyone in money movement or payments can build on top of the Visa stack. And that stack reaches, what, over 200 countries, 150 currencies, connects nearly 5 billion credentials globally. It's a massive scale.
What an incredible deep dive we've had. We've really covered how Visa is, well, so much more than just a card company, right?
Absolutely.
It's this global network adapting constantly from AI shopping to stablecoin remittances. I think the key takeaway for you, our listener, is that the future of how money moves is being built right now. And it's driven by this relentless innovation, these strategic partnerships, and just a laser focus on making transactions seamless and secure.
Absolutely. And, if Visa truly becomes this hyperscaler that anyone can build on,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What entirely new forms of commerce, things we maybe can't even imagine today, will actually flourish on top of that global payments infrastructure in the next, say, decade.
That is something to ponder.
Definitely something to think about until our next deep dive.